Grootbos, Grootbos was founded in 1997 as a lodge, and it was in 2003 that the Grootbos Foundation was founded as the non-profit company to organize the conservation and community work of the Grootbos family. And so it was ahead of later on, which would become Grootbos becoming a member of the Long Run, that Grootbos already started trying to find, first of all, its purpose and its identity. And it defined that right from the early days as having a botanical purpose to conserve the Cape Floral Kingdom, and having a community purpose to uplift the humans and the people that lived in the very landscape which Grootbos wanted to protect and conserve. And so later on, when Grootbos joined the Long Run and was to learn the structures and the dashboard of how to set one's targets, it was then that Grootbos actually for the first time became aware that through one of our audits that of the 4 C's, Grootbos feels that it's quite strong at its commercial model, the conservation programs, the community programs, but the 1 C that we felt that we needed to put more effort into and to develop, to do more, was our culture C. And so our presentation today is what we feel has turned into a journey of exploring Grootbos's identity and cultural programs and how far we think we've come with that. But we're going to take a few steps back, and Sean's going to tell you about the importance of fynbos to Grootbos, and then we'll step into our Florilegium project.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, if you look at the picture we've got up on the screen, it's unusual in that we've got this game viewing vehicle out in the mountains, in the Fynbos Mountains on the reserve. But of course, we're not looking at game, we're looking at flowers and birds and the small things. And that's always been, I suppose, something that Grootbos has driven as a high-end tourism destination, focused on the Cape flora and the nuances of the flora and the uniqueness of the flora. And certainly when you're driving past in a hurry and on the main road, and you look up on the hills, you just see this gray-green bush. And what it takes is good interpretation, good guiding, and the opportunity to really immerse oneself into the fynbos to really understand it. So we've persevered at this. Obviously, Grootbos also has whales and has a beautiful location, but really it's the flowers that are kind of the unique selling point to our product. And flowers are quite difficult things to sell, and we found over the years also to market that once we have the guests and we're out in the mountains, like you see there with one of our guides, we can bring it to life. And it's an amazing flora. It's one of the most special parts of the world in terms of biodiversity. The Cape Floristic region, of which 2/3 are found nowhere else on the planet. And it is either the richest or second richest part of the world in terms of botanical diversity and endemism, so the uniqueness of the flora. And the flora is incredibly complex, diverse, interesting, really interesting, but challenging in a way, as I said, to make it really interesting for our guests, for the communities that we're working with, and to make it relevant as well across this landscape. So when we started looking at the cultural perspective of our work, we realized that there was this opportunity in terms of botanical art and bringing the beauty and the diversity and the uniqueness of this very special and threatened flora alive through a botanical art project. And this project started relatively recently. We started with it around about 2018, and we started just with inviting some of the botanical artists, top botanical artists in South Africa, to Grootbos. We were very fortunate to connect with kind of the matriarch of botanical art in South Africa, Vicky Thomas. And Vicky was, facilitated this project. She knew who to invite. She would invite the artists. We would take them out into the mountains. We would spend some time with them. We would show them the special plants. We would give them the opportunity to choose what they wanted to paint. And it wasn't always the big and showy things, but it was the unique species, the rare species, the new species that we found. And then we brought an angle in, which I think was really exciting, and that was the pollinators and the associated fauna. And one of the really interesting things about the Cape is these ecological interactions between the plants, the animals, the birds, the insects, the fires. And the artists were encouraged to actually not just paint the plant, but to tell the story of these really interesting little nuances of the fangos through their work. So in a way, science meets art through this project. But also we brought in the cultural heritage of the plants, the history of how plants and the plants of this region have formed such a fundamental part of human development, of people who've lived here for 120,000 years along this coastline, who made use of these resources, and how a lot of that knowledge has been lost, but a lot of that information is still available. And these plants have a really important cultural heritage component in terms of the Cape. We also have entomologists at Grootbos. We have a team of entomologists, and the entomologists were very involved in ensuring that the right insects and the right insect associations and the mutualisms and everything was brought into the botanical art. So it's been an amazing project in that it started just with a couple of artists, and it grew from there to, in total, we've had around 120 pieces that have been painted by 44 botanical artists, around 30 of them South African, and the others from all over the world. We've come and spent time at Grootbos, and then gone home, painted these incredible pieces of work. Each piece has a main piece of art, and then with it is a vignette, which is a smaller associated piece of art that will tell the story about the interactions or the uniqueness of that particular plant. So it started with the art, and then we realized that we had this opportunity to develop it into a book. So we produced a beautiful coffee table book, which brings together not just the art, but the stories of each piece, as well as the different components of the story, from the fire, the impact of fire, the diversity, the endemism, the uniqueness, the ecological interactions, the cultural heritage, and then the rarity and the threats that are posed to the flora of this region. And then we were very fortunate, after a couple of years, we had one of our supporters who's been supporting our conservation work at the foundation for many years, and she offered to support us at Grootbos to actually put up a gallery, the most beautiful building, to showcase this art in those different themes that I've just mentioned to you. So each of the different rooms in the gallery has a different theme, and the combination of the art, the gallery, and the book has been incredible in opening people's eyes to the complexity and the uniqueness and the beauty of this flora. So it kind of started as a small idea, but it's evolved into something that's been really impactful. And we have, not only does it work for the guests who are at Grootbos, who have the opportunity to go out into the mountains with a guide, immerse themselves in the natural landscape. They can then come back into this gallery and then see in giant technicolor the beauty of the artist's interpretation of these interactions. So that's worked for the Grootbos guests, but it's also been wonderful for us as a foundation in that we've been able to open this up to the general public. And we have people who are not staying at Grootbos able to come to the gallery, they pre-book the tours, and they come in, and so a whole much bigger audience than would normally be just our guests at Grootbos are now exposed to this beauty and the stories of the Cape flora. And then we've also been able to use it for a lot of our programs within the foundation in terms of educating, inspiring, working with young people through our sports programs, through our community programs, through our environmental education programs. All of these people are able to go into the gallery and learn about the stories and see nature in this different format. the other component that's been really wonderful for us of the galleries, that it's actually raising money for the foundation. So the donation of the building and the support that Grootbos gave us, we were able to, obviously we generate income through the sales of the book, through the sales of the art pieces, not the originals, but we have copies of the art that we sell. And this is bringing in significant funding back into the foundation to conserve the very species and the landscapes that are represented through the art, but also to support the community programs that we're running with this particular focus on art and developing the arts through maybe Phil can go into that in a little bit more detail, but it's generating income that's actually supporting our programs and enabling us to fund projects working with children in the arts.
Yes, at this moment, I also want to share a little with how much we've learned through the process of developing this Florilegium collection. It started out with just one art piece before it was to become a private art collection that drives conservation, and it drives fundraising for the foundation programs, and it drives an excitement amongst people of all ages for the individual stories from the landscape. But it's also given us an opportunity to learn how we can use art itself and the process of art to actually engage with our community. So if we let go of the end product and the fine art of the illustration at the end, and rather look at the process of creating art and the different ways that one can get children to mess around with creative elements. It can even be with their bodies and voices. It's opened Grootbos up to challenge us to develop a way that we engage with our community in ways that we never did before. And that has developed our community, our cultural column of the one aspect of our 4Cs dashboard that we were always previously comparatively weak in. It's challenged us to develop that and into a more robust community engagement where we use the arts with children for them to process trauma, for them to open up and speak to their coaches in a different way than they did before. We have always engaged the community through the fun of sports, and it is new to us to engage the community through the fun of arts. And we've expanded that to include music and song and games and the visual arts. And we're finding that the benefit is certainly in building trust with children, and the members of the community who most need the impact of our programs are those that find that they can open up more if it is done through song and through the arts. So we've developed a children's cultural program that we run through our holiday programs every school holiday, and every Friday afternoon when there is not sports on the go, all children and teenagers are invited to come to a facility with our sports coaches and actually do an art engagement. So we feel that this whole Florilegium program has helped us develop our cultural program as well.
And then finally, just to sort of put it into perspective in terms of the work that we're doing across the landscape and how this Florilegium project fits into our conservation strategy. The map on the screen shows the broader Agulhas Plain region, and Grootbos there on the left-hand side of the screen in the red. So about 3,500 hectares, but relative to the bigger picture of what we're trying to do, quite a small piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And the work that we're doing in the foundation around conservation is not focused purely anymore just on Grootbos, although the stories that are portrayed through the Florilegium project and through the book that we've produced are the stories of the Grootbos fynbos and the interactions that we've researched over the last 25 years. But really what we're trying to do is tell a story about the Cape and about the fynbos as a whole. So if one comes to the gallery or if you read the book, it's actually not about Grootbos, it's about the marvelous region that we live in, this incredible biodiversity, and trying to make it, you know, exciting and using a different strategy in terms of spreading the word, sharing this information about this special area. And we're using that also, as I said earlier, to support us in our, not just in the information side of things, but also in the funding of this conservation strategy of working with mostly private landowners, but also with state land, to grow this conservation network and to strengthen the corridors, and work in rehabilitation of the landscape with a strong focus on community involvement, green opportunities, green economic opportunities. So it's not just about conserving the land, it's also about restoring the land in the right way and involving people from this region in this conservation strategy.